With a population of over 228 million people, that is according to the National Populations Commission, Nigeria currently has a housing deficit of over 28 million units, and that means we will need as high as 21 million naira to bridge the gap in the housing deficit. And on the flip side, in the third quarter of 2023, we did see the Nigerian real estate sector grow by over 2.83%. We might just be seeing light at the end of the tunnel. Joining me now to review how the real estate sector has fared in the year 2023 and the major key developments we did see in that sector and how they impacted in the real estate development. I am now joined by Wisdom Kwati. He is a real estate developer. Thank you for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you so much, Shamaka. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Let's start off with the point I made during the introduction, that is the housing deficit. Over 28 million units. We have a shortfall of over 28 million units in terms of housing, and that poses a very huge problem. But are we so far looking at the solutions? And if we are, what have we been able to do so far to bridge that gap? I'm asking because you are a major stakeholder, a major key player in the housing sector. What are your thoughts on bridging the housing deficit gap?
Well, for my thoughts in bridging the gap, so far the economy quite it's the best. We've done so much in terms of the development of affordable housing across the nation. We have the government efforts, and the government has shown keen to ensure that a priority. And in terms of the mental steadiness of the industry, like you just mentioned now, the level is quite slow, but a lot has been made to ensure that there's a high delivery in the housing issue, trying to solve the housing deficit. Million housing deficit is quite a lot, and we need to build fast to be able to bridge that gap. A lot of resources, a lot of policy in place, and a lot of willpower from the government and also the sector to ensure that this the gap.
One thing that came up repeatedly in your response was affordable housing, and that is not an uncommon thing that I hear from real estate players, key players in that sector. But I'd like to ask, how affordable is affordable housing? And I'm asking for the benefit of those at the lower echelon of the chain. Speaking of people who probably earn minimum wage as low as 30,000 naira a month. So how affordable is this affordable housing?
Well, it's just a literal term, but it's not cheap. The industry right now is not smiling because there's a bit of inflation, especially in the construction industry. We had a lot of downtime. This is an election year, and we are having every bit of material just jumping around. And one of the things that we're trying to resolve in terms of affordability is issuing the proper pricing for the. But you can't give it for a house that you built at 5 million or 2 million. It's not possible. Those who are earning about 30 naira might find it difficult to actually get this housing, except, of course, if you have a bridge funds able to come from any itself cannot be able to take up the mortgage facility, however it is scheduled. While also cost of, because if you look at the cost of land, cost of materials, right now it's quite on the high side. It's like Abuja, Lagos. So you're having so much that's done and so much needs to be delivered. So it's quite not affordable in all real sense. We're just trying to make sure we do our best to provide this pricing or margin for each housing type.
You touched on inflation, which is something that has not just impacted only on the real estate sector, but we've seen that play out in most major sectors across the nation. But let's talk about inflationary pressures and juxtapose it with how the real estate sector fared in the year 2022 and 2023. How much inflationary pressure, or how much did inflation affect that sector, the real estate sector, in the year 2023, comparing it to the year 2022?
You see, before we talk about inflation, I will talk about pricing control because we are having issue when it comes to the system in Nigeria, whereby some group of people in the market just decide to push pricing, even though the inflation has much cost on their product markets. The consumer protection, the pricing policies need to be put in place in all industries, particularly the real estate sector. The inflation is quite much. The cost of rods in December 2022 is not the same cost of iron rods in December 2023. You can see the market increasing from literally the housing deficit. We're having so much gap. The increase of materials in some part of the industry, we have what we call stability. Literally, in terms of cement, literally at 5,000, depending on where you're buying from. You get it back from the manufacturer, but other developers might not buy that. So one can't just be building. I'm talking about the industry itself. The inflation cost, the inflation margin so far is very high in the industry. We're talking about literally 28% margin in the industry.
Let's talk a bit on policies from government and, on the flip side, the bureaucratic bottlenecks. There has been a couple of policies that we've seen being implemented in the real estate sector for the year 2023, and one of those is the high interest rate that we did see come from the CBN, where interest rate was increased to about 18.75%. So far, after we did see that increment in the month of July this year, has there been any tremendous impact because of this increase in interest rate? Has this impacted in any way in the real estate sector based on, say, purchase of housing or building generally?
Of course, it's actually had a negative impact in the industry, and most especially where a developer has to source funds from the bank, and you are going to 18%. Definitely, that has also affected the price of housing, and you have to be able to add in those percent each per annum, depending on the time of the payment schedule you are giving to your client or to your investors. So definitely, the interest rate and government policies towards the industry are not friendly, but seeing good policies coming in from the current government, and we've seen the efforts by the current to be able to solve some issues and be able to find a way forward. We've had meetings here and there with some of the key policymakers. They are looking into the sector, the best policies suit in the industry. We're talking about source of funds, the capacity to deliver this housing, because if the policies and the source of funding, either from the government or from the banking sector or private investors whom are giving you funding at ridiculous interest rates, really will affect the cost of housing. You cannot sell at a loss. So as a business person, whether you're or even the government itself, should not be at a loss, basically. So the policy quite now are still very stringent. We hope to see better policies in 2024.
The year 2022 recorded about 62 building collapses across the nation, and we've seen that play out as well in the year 2023. And these can be said to be an issue around regulation and implementation of those regulations. Let's hear from you. What's your view on that? Who is to blame with regards to this consistent or repeated building collapse across the nation?
Well, already, it all revolves on regulations. And mostly, we are unprofessional or people who are not qualified to be developer, builders, or engineers coming to claim that they are qualified. And we also in the industry, even the clients sometimes get to for developer doing site and services and allow the client. You get to have issues whereby somebody wants to give his cousin do for them, and some of those policy, some of those issues all involving the government's policy and the regulators ensuring that every house is built by an approved builder. So you have to find pray for the government to be able to ensure the qualified professionals that have been accredited by the government are the ones that are meant or given the construction contract to develop it. But you will definitely find short corners in a lot of places, and that's one of the major causes of the problem because the cost of material is high in the market. But most times, people, because of greed, ignorance, will want to try to cut us to save costs and make it. So the regulators must ensure that those issues are realized in terms of every construction going on. Every time they should put in their resources and manpower able to ensure adequate provision across the board.
In line with meeting the sustainability development goals that has been implemented across the world, we are seeing the real estate sector also playing its part, bringing up things such as eco-friendly homes or sustainable homes. Can we speak to that regard? How much has Nigeria embraced the development of eco-friendly homes, or as you call it, sustainable homes?
Well, in the last 5 years, Nigeria has been pushing for building smart cities. Remember when we started, some people we were pushing in the concept of building eco-friendly homes, and so far so good. Nigeria developers are adhering to SDG goals in terms of sustainable housing that are eco-friendly, and seeing a lot of innovation in the related industry to be able to help in terms of making all the houses are quite smart. We've seen the use of polystyrene technology. We've seen the use of other building materials has helped in terms of cutting down pricing, and also use of that are quite eco-friendly. And one thing that I love, especially in Abuja, that the development control ensures the issue of landscape. In every estate in Abuja, you agree that one of the key parts you must have in your estate, you must have the estate must be well landscaped. And I'm sure the site development plan that policy that has been issued, especially by the regional plan in Abuja, has ensured that every estate is adhering to sustainable development goal in terms of building smart estates, smart cities, and all put back to housing. We also have the use of solar technologies, which is quite being used. It's growing now day by day in the industry. It's quite very, very good.
Based on data from the National Bureau of Statistics, we saw a certain level of growth in the real estate sector, about 2.83% in the third quarter. Is that the current reality of that sector? Are you seeing, is this figure being visible in your day-to-day operations in the real estate market? Is this something that you see and experience?
Well, yes, it's quite and I even see that the figure is quite underrated in the sense that we have more development coming up every single day. The job is we have so many developers now coming into the industry, and that's making development faster. And for an election year, even because of the uncertainties we had in during the election time, so many things had to draw back, but now that the industry is beginning to pick up more, We expect to see more faster in terms of the estate industry, and we also expect that with adequate and a more effective government policy friendly to the real estate across the country, we see speedy growth in the industry. People are building shelter, like you said, we have 8 million housing deficit. So what we're currently doing right now is quite book the status quo, and we should be able to run faster. And we plead to the government to see how more policies can be given giving the developer call in terms of pushing general development forward.
In 1 minute, just before we go, I'd like for you to tell me your expectations for the year 2024. I mean, the year 2023 is just about to round up. What form of collaborations with government is members or key stakeholders in the real estate sector looking forward to having in the year 2024? What do you look forward to?
Well, for me, sincerely, I look 2024 is going to be an amazing year. And I can only speak basically my own self and our company. And we have so much plans for in terms of collaboration with the government. We're in the Wisdom Kwati active in Yola. We're building the Japan Smart City in Port Harcourt, and so many others that we are working with the government closely to ensure that we have the adequate policies and adequate by the government. So I see industry are going to be fired up in 2024. At least confidence of investors is coming back in the country. The economy is pushing to break even, and I also expect a push from developers in the entire 2024. We've seen so in the pricing, though, of course, challenges that doesn't the area of challenges, but we hope that 2024 should be able to be bright in terms of an open that developers will have all the chances and all the support. We're open to collaboration. We're pushing more collaboration with the government. We're pushing for more collaboration with the other private sector companies within the private sector. We're pushing for with other NGOs to see that we work together in terms of the general goals in terms of in Nigeria.
Insightful review of the real estate sector for the year 2023 there. Thank you, Wisdom Kwati, real estate developer. Thank you for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you so much.
And this is where we draw the curtains on today's edition of the program Business Daily, coming to you on Trust TV. Do well to join us again, same time, same station tomorrow. My name is Chiamaka Enendu. Thank you for watching.